What is going on, people? It's me once again, introducing our 15th episode here at Room 9, and it has been challenging but awesome since the beginning of October. I've always expected this motivation and my discipline to fade away, just like it has with almost every other creative idea I've ever come up with, but it hasn't, and I feel like I'm finally have figured out the things that I want to do and how to stick with something and not just give up on it once it gets difficult. So, that being said, I was going to share real quick here before we get into the episode something that has kind of been on my mind a little bit. And what it is exactly that has been on my mind is I was kind of just thinking this morning as I was having my coffee how crazy it is that I have this amazing relationship with this woman and that I almost ruined it because of an addiction. And I'm extremely lucky to still have her in my life, but it's amazing how I almost ruined this because of a drug. Looking back on it sober, it is dumbfounding that I would have given this relationship up for a drug. And my relationship with Christine is something that at one point I never thought could actually exist. My connection with her is unbelievable. And I almost ruined that. And I was trying to figure out how I let that or allowed that to almost ruin this incredible thing that I'm extremely lucky to have. And what it was is I realized I didn't think I deserved it. Pre-drug era. I did not think I deserved it. And if we don't start loving ourselves and feeling like we deserve forgiveness and happiness and acceptance, I don't think we're ever going to get it. And I also think that needs to come along with feeling that it's okay to be alone and not have somebody like that and still have that feeling of self-love, self-acceptance, and self-forgiveness. So if you're sitting here listening to this and you don't feel like you'll ever find that connection with somebody, you don't feel like you deserve that connection with somebody, you have to work on that. Figure out what it's going to take for you to get into the mindset of knowing you deserve this acceptance, love, and forgiveness. So that's all I had to say. It was kind of heavy on my mind this morning. But this coming up episode, I am sitting down once again with my really good, close best friend, David Riffel. We had a little short clip, about 25-minute clip earlier on in the beginning of Room 9. And since then, I have progressed very much in a very good way with the equipment, with just how I host and how I edit. And so it was nice to re-sit down with him, and he discusses a few things, and whether it's his relationship with God, whether it's our relationship and what things were like throughout my addiction. But I encourage you to check this episode out and give it a go listen. As always, I am so appreciative of your support, and I am also very appreciative of all the feedback I've been getting. I hope you guys get on room9podcast.com and check things out, check the website out. We officially have an if you need help page that is being added to more and more every day, but you can get phone numbers and like the addiction hotlines on there, Horizon Village, Best Self, Save the Michaels, Crisis Hotline, Suicide Hotline, all those are going to be up there in the next couple weeks. I am also going to have a public records page. I was donated $350, which has all been spent on equipment to get stuff out of here. So the last piece that is needed really is a new laptop for Room 9. Other than the payments of RSS feeds and website fees. So, I have this support page up. There's an explanation of how the money is monitored and controlled. It'll all be in public view. And if anybody's feeling the need to even give $1, which would help, because I know this laptop is not going to last very long. It's doing what it needs to do for now, but in the future we are going to need a new one. And that's key as far as spreading this message to other people. So I will also be sitting down with a doctor from the University of Buffalo very soon. So that episode, look for that in the next month or so. I'm very much looking forward to that. And we are kind of slowly growing. So I appreciate all your support. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram, on Twitter. We are all over the place now. iTunes, we're on Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, Pandora, some other place, whatever place you can think of. If you don't find us on one, let us know. So with further ado, here is episode 15 of the Room 9 podcast with David Riffel. Upper.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Room 9. David, you're back, but we're kind of pushing that other one out of our minds.
Yeah, and it's not like the first time we've ever done this.
No, it's not.
I have a lot of episodes of you and I conversing, or conversations. I shouldn't say episodes, but
a ton of them.
We've done this a lot, and it's nice to do it now in this context.
It is. I think when with the exception of the last one we did up at the old neck, we were doing them in my parents' garage, and that was pretty much living in lies and manipulation and deceit and in hell. So it's refreshing to have one where there's just nothing but truth oozing out of every pore of my body, which is one of the greatest feelings in the world. I was thinking of that the other day, of the Jordan Peterson, just tell the truth, just live in truth, and how difficult that actually can be, just in general, just about little things, about everything, and just telling yourself the truth and just living it. But it's such a weightless feeling. It's amazing to not have to second guess. All right, should I say this? Should I not say this? Who do I have to manipulate? What a great feeling that is to not live in that.
Honest living.
Ooh, it sounds so simple, but it's not. Well, it's simple. It's hard, though.
Marv Levy, right? One of the greatest quotes ever. It's simple, but it's not easy.
That's right.
There's
a big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, for sure. But, people don't even know who I am, and they're listening to me on your podcast.
That's right. David Riffel, my BFF. We've known each other since, 8th grade? 7th grade? 8th grade? I mean, I guess technically if we're taking it way back, my sister used to babysit you, but I don't ever remember hanging out with you.
Right, but I think it's significant that your siblings were in my life when I was a kid, and especially your sister. Your brother came around every now and then, but Michelle would babysit me. She was my primary sitter. Show up and watch MTV in the 90s and make sure that I didn't kill my sister. But she was so chill and introduced me to my future favorite band, which then ironically was your favorite band in high school. And then we were able to connect only because the trail ends up back at your sister. So I feel like that connection is cool. And I think you and I started to hang out a lot in high school, but not until I would say like even 10th grade. I was kind of a loner freshman year at Performing Arts, and you were in the clan of kids that were there since elementary
Fifth
school.
Grade, yeah.
So like it was very cliquey. And I didn't really connect with you, but it was music ultimately that brought us together as real best friends.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall how that started. I don't know if it was a concert. Was it? It wasn't. I feel like you're the one who got me into the old DMB. So I don't feel like it started. It had to start with different music. I don't remember like what specific artist or how we like connected and started hanging out, but it's interesting to think about because it's been many years.
Yeah, it was. And part of it, I'm sure, was that I, at the same time, was attending Kaz Church. I was starting to check that place out. And your family, obviously, was a big part of that. So we were just around each other more than just in high school, even though it's not like we would go there for fun and hang out. But anyway, just trucking through. We've been friends a long time. And ever since high school, sticking through a great friendship and not just ditching it. And continuing that through school, college, you moving to Florida and me visiting you there all the time and watching your son take his first steps and living in your garage, being very intertwined with your family and all along the years documenting it, taking pictures of you guys and just being involved. And obviously through the spiritual journey, and you and I have gone down so many different roads. So this is just another road. So it's so cool that we can connect for so long and just keep it real and just be honest. I've always appreciated that about our friendship, is that I know that we were always honest at some point. You obviously lied a lot.
Yeah,
to me.
With the old addiction, there was definitely lies going on. I mean, I can't think of a person who I wasn't lying to, including my drug dealer. It's amazing, I guess, to sum that all up, to be just living in complete honesty and how that feels, because it is no bueno. But I guess kind of getting to the point of all of this, one of the points is looking at my addiction kind of through your eyes to start. Anyway, I know we had some other topics we wanted to touch base on, but I thought it'd be cool to let everyone kind of hear how everything looked at in my addiction through your eyes, through your point of view. I have my sister's on there. I'm going to get my mom's. I'm posting Christine's next Monday, the 28th. That's episode's coming out. I think that's episode 13. But, through your eyes, I think that would be cool to kind of share a glimpse. I don't really know. I mean, I guess the best place to start is kind of around when it all came out and how you found out, what was said, the feelings, emotions, and all the things that went on at that point, which would have been a little over a year ago.
Yeah. So if that's where you want to start, I'm curious when it actually did start. And that's always the kicker, is like, that's when it was exposed and found out. So where did it start? Because I saw you regularly, a couple times a week. So if you want to really know what it's like through my eyes, it really started probably a year before everything came out, and seeing you just continue to mask your pain and your issues and creating stories and self-pity and feeling sorry for yourself for a long time leading up to that. But we would always get together and talk. You would always kind of share these things with me. So to fast forward to January of 2018, right before that, when you took your kids down to Florida, there's a lot of theft going on. And that's when Christine called me while you were gone and said, hey, you got to come over sometime and talk. So prior to that, you were puking, you were blacking out when we would hang out, you would just start nodding off, and you were telling the story that you were having stomach pain and you didn't know what was wrong with you. And so you'd say you're going to go to the doctor and you're going to get stuff checked out. Funny, but genuinely concerned for your health.
Yeah.
Because you've always had stomach issues. That's a real thing in your life. So you knew very well to pull that card, because it's always been an issue for you.
Yeah.
So the fact that you started to then vomit and black out without having any idea that you were even touching heroin, was like really concerning, for us as your friends. And so when Christine called me up and said, I got to tell you something, come on over, I was like, this is big. And I prefaced it.
Did you feel it just right in your gut immediately?
I felt like I had no idea what she was going to tell me.
Okay.
I didn't know if she was going to break up with you and she was telling me first, if she was going, like, what it was even about. And so when I showed up at her house and she told me that you were stealing from her and she caught you, and you were stealing from her kids, and the dots started to connect for her. And then I was her sounding board. And then we took it to your family and we started to check out, you were shady, so shady. Like, you were hanging behind your sister's house smoking a cigarette one day when I was going to my dad's, who's her neighbor.
Yep.
Walking in the back door there, and you were behind Megan's house smoking a cigarette. I had no idea you were ever going to be there, because we had plans to jam. You always loved music, and we would always find some time to play music together. But you stopped trying to play music a long time ago. And that was like where I feel like your personality started to shift. Because you used to use music to mask your pain. That's all, you'd use that and alcohol.
Yeah.
But like a lot of it was music. And then you stopped listening and caring about music. And then it kind of came to a head when we had plans to finally play music together at my space in Niagara Falls at Upper Story Studios. And have you up and actually make something. And then you ditched the plan because you weren't feeling well. And then you called me 20 minutes after I had seen you in your sister's backyard ready to have dinner with her. I'm in my dad's house and you text me or something and say, can you pick me up on Bailey past Clinton Street?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like,
okay.
I
was trying to piece together what time was this? Okay.
Like, how and why? How did you end up there? And I didn't know what was going on. And so I picked you up, and you had pawned something at the store. You were taking Christine's car to dump it off at a place, and you locked your keys in the car.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So you locked Christine's keys in her car while she was in Florida, and you called me, and I was just blown away because I had just seen you behind Megan's house, and we had plans, and so you just kind of scooted away. And then did something really dumb, locked the keys in the car, which is just...
As I was getting dope sick.
Right.
Oh, I was ready to smash the window. I didn't know what I was going to do.
You were freaking out.
Oh, man.
You could not get your mind off getting those keys out of that car. And you were calling AAA and trying to figure things. So I was like, something's weird here. So I dropped you off and I drove back there. And I looked in the car and I saw all this alcohol, these beer cans all over the car. Like maybe you were going to take him to return, but it didn't look good. And I was like, what is he hiding in there? I don't know. Because you're hiding something. And you could just see it all over yourself. Because you wouldn't be that freaked out over a situation that could have been resolved.
No, if I was honestly taking her car to get the tires checked out and I did that, there's no way.
Yeah,
there's no
so
way.
you started getting caught in all these kinds of lies. And so that was the first time when I was like, he's not going to tell me whatever's going on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so when she told me all this while you were away, that you had been stealing, you know, all of these red flags started going off. And so we went over to your parents' house before you landed in Buffalo again, and we went through all your stuff. I called up Corey. I told Corey, you know, our other good friend, that you were using, and he freaked out too, and we all got together to support Christine. And so at that point, Christine's priorities and your family's priorities came first, because we knew that we found heroin in your bag and nobody knew that was happening. And so that's when like the floor sunk below me. I was like, I'm supposed to go and pick him up tonight at the airport. What am I supposed to say? Am I supposed to say that we found all this out? Am I supposed to break the news to him? Like, what do we do? So that's when I picked you up at the airport, and I don't think I said very much because I didn't really have anything to say. And you were irritable. You weren't happy to be home, but you just dropped your kids off in Florida, so that's to be expected.
That was icing on the cake, I guess you could say. But I knew, like, I had that feeling. When you're in addiction, you have a feeling of heaviness constantly. It's just the heaviest weight you can possibly imagine, just constantly weighing on you. And you had all the lies, and you had all the manipulation. And I knew Christine knew something at that point. I think I took something from her daughter that few days prior, and I think she knew. I remember texting her, "What is going on?" You know, playing stupid. And she was just like, "I don't know." And but she knew. She knew finally it was me. There was something really wrong. I was at least addicted to something. Maybe didn't know the substance at the time, but she knew for sure something was going on. And I pretty much knew she knew. It was trying to get to it through text, you know, throughout my day at the airport. And I just knew something was up. I mean, I could just feel it. Like, all right, this is finally happening.
Yeah. So that's just the beginning of it. And I think the point is that in that conversation with your family, before you flew home, before I picked you up at the airport, we all decided, you know, what we were going to do. How are we going to react to this? Mm-hmm. Is it tough love? How do you love someone in addiction and be there for them without enabling them? And so we all decided
It's a fine line.
that we were going to love you instead of push you away, obviously. But it's not obvious in every situation. Some people can't do that, and that's okay. But we decided we were going to do that as long as you were going to be honest. So that's what we did. And you lived there, and we supported you, and we'd have fires, and we'd stick microphones in front of our faces and you know, still have great conversations, and just you're being honest with your recovery. But then the tape continues, you know, and months go by, and then you relapse, and you didn't tell me.
I didn't tell anybody. Again. Yeah.
So that's when it was like extra salt in the wound, because here we are trying a new start, trying to love unconditionally. I'm defending you like crazy to some people who aren't being so supportive, and Corey and people, and I'm defending you. And all I'm hoping the whole time is like, I hope Sean doesn't prove them right, you know? And then you did.
I did.
And that's when I had to make decision number 2. But through my eyes, because that's what this is about. When you relapsed and when you stole from Christine, I was pissed.
And at that point, it was just, and that's how bad it, because I've shared this several times on the show. When you get that bad and you know everybody's going to know. It wasn't sneaky anymore. It was me walking down to her house for my parents, crying the whole way, not wanting to go in there and take things, but I also didn't want to be sick. And it was just, it's such a terrible position to be in. Like anybody, it's just the most heavy, wretched feeling you can possibly ever imagine. Doing something you know isn't right, doing something that is blatantly effed up and completely wrong, and crying about it and still having almost feel like you have to do it. And obviously there was the choice. I didn't have to do it, but just by the tears and the pain coming from the actual action and still doing it, it's insane how it just takes over your mind. And at that point it was like, I don't effing care. I'm going to do this because I don't want to be sick anymore. I know she's going to know that I took this. There's no, who was that? I don't know. I mean, I know she's going to know, and I'm going to do it anyway. And that's just the craziness of addiction in itself.
And ironically, just was it today or yesterday that your judge, the judge overruling your case, just lifted. Yeah, so the court just lifted this court-ordered. What would you?
Order of protection.
An order of protection has been lifted. All right, let's start that sentence again. Just chop that out. So just the other day, your order of protection has been lifted, right? From that walk that you just described.
Basically, yeah. I think that was actually on the 12th. Yeah, it was that day.
That was the walk of shame where you're walking in and you're just going to steal and you're just not going to care about the consequence, the long term, because you're so consumed in the short term. So it's interesting because I've been reflecting a lot lately on present tense, and it's funny, like trying to take steps in short snippets. Mm-hmm. And that's the mantra of recovery, is one day at a time. So ironically, it's one day at a time. You're making a choice every day to be sober, to be growing through your situation. And it's also one day at a time, and a short-sightedness that brings you into addiction, where you're not thinking of the long-term consequences. You're just thinking about getting high today, one day at a time. Future will figure itself out, but today I'm going to not get sick. Mm-hmm. So it's equally a choice to not get sick, to stay sober and to push through, which I think is kind of cool that it comes full circle in that way, that it's a daily choice. We have this relationship with this future version of ourselves every day, that we have a dream or a hope for what it is that we're going to create, what we're here to do. And if your choice is to wallow in self-pity, that's, or like feeling sorry for yourself and, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in this position, versus the total inverse of that, being grounded and secure and not feeling like you need anything, not feeling in want of anything. That's like the place where the soil is like fertile for something to actually grow out of it.
It's a hero's journey in itself right there, coming from the underground and coming up. Yeah, thinking about that future self thing is actually really trippy when you think about, like, you're almost predicting, setting forth intention for like the future. Which is really bizarre to think of how the human mind can do that. I mean, at least as we know, no other animal can think about, all right, next week, Monday, I'm going to go do this. On Tuesday, I'm going to do this. On Wednesday, I'm going to do that. But as you said, like taking those baby steps, so taking that long-term goal and in between having those little tiny steps of one day, each hour, even take it down to the minutes. And all right, I'm going to plan this out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I think to take that into a positive direction, as you said, because it can be negative. That's how it was in addiction. I was one day at a time, but in the total pits of hell, I was doing it. But to do it in a very positive way, I think is one of the greatest lessons. I mean, you can teach yourself. You can really get into a routine of that state of thinking, which I think is, where I'm at now, it's awesome to be able to sit here and talk about these terrible things that I've done and not feel guilt or shame about them anymore, which is a very difficult thing to do, I think, for any addict. The reason why my first relapse happened was because it was out, but I still had all this guilt and shame, and none of it was dealt with. And I just didn't want to feel that anymore. So learning, taking those little steps, setting those goals to get out of self-pity, to get out of poor me, to get out of the world's against me, nobody understands me attitude, is imperative to recovery or to anybody's life, even if you're not an addict.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my best friends for a couple of years, he was in his 40s while I was in my 20s. Actually, I think it was exactly twice my age. His name was Bill, Big Bill, and we became best friends because he was in recovery. And so I've been to all the meetings.
Did you go with him to the meetings?
Oh my God, yeah. I was all over the place with him. I did a documentary on him, on his story of shooting some bad heroin into his arm. He was bad. He lost everything in a house fire while he was at ECMC, lost his relationships with his family, started over moved into Kaz recovery system next to the church. And I bumped into him at the library picking out some CDs. He was a big guy, and he was like 6'7", 300 something pounds.
Hence Big Bill.
400 something pounds, long gray hair in a ponytail, fat guy, big lips, big blue eyes though, you know, like he was rough. And so when he was in the library looking at me through the CDs and his deep voice, he sang like Joe Cocker, and he said to me, "You should check out that Eric Clapton song." And he saw so I picked it up, and it was something about, I don't know, "In Your Father's Eyes." My Father's Eyes, that's all. And I was like, this big dude is telling me to listen to my Father's Eyes? And he was like hinting at me because he knew I was at the church. I was like, he thought I was some churchy guy. I was like, nah, man, okay, cool. So I stopped by with my guitar to the Kaz recovery system on Halloween, and we played She Came In Through the Bathroom Window. It was the first song we ever played. And from that moment on, we were best friends until the day he died. And on his deathbed, I gave him a big hug because he was unconscious and he had an allergic reaction to the medicine that he was on. I promised him I'd never stop telling his story, which is why I'm sharing it now, because it's the only way that you could keep somebody alive. The story was a good one because he through music and through working on himself every day, you know, we wrote a lot of music together, and it totally changed him when he was able to sing. He was able to like release and no longer have this guilt. He dropped all the shame because he changed the way that he was looking at the situation, hung out with his family again, and we made lots of music. He felt free. And then the last song we ever played together was She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, and then he died. And it was kind of trippy how he came full circle. He actually lived on Trowbridge as well for a time in a house just like this. And
that's where Room 9 studio is.
I say all that though because, you know, the recovery road is beautiful, and it's like a mystical journey that a person takes when they face their own powerlessness, and they make amends with their friends, and they go through these steps of trying to get to the point of serenity, which ultimately is living one day at a time, each moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace. And so when you can accept hardship as a pathway to peace, that is serenity. And that's everyone's goal, whether you shot stuff in your arm like him, or you just sniffed it up your nose, or you just are cranking up the
money on clothes,
credit card bills because you don't know where else to put all of your attention and whatever it is you're trying to mask. So why do you have to mask something? Because you're dishonest. If you could just live in an honest way, in a humble way, there's nothing to mask, there's nothing to cover. All you have is love and support, and you have community. That's the reason that recovery will always have the spot in me. It taught me so much about people, building friendships. I have so many friendships with recovering addicts throughout my years, close friends that I started to identify as being in recovery, even though I had not gone down that like formal path of court-ordered rehab, you know, like everyone else in the room had. But learning that people were there to show up, to be real. That was church. I preferred those Monday night meetings, to go to those and share stories about people coming there just needing permission to forgive themselves almost. And using music and food to do that is my favorite kind of church. And you find Christ, you find God in those kinds of situations, and it becomes a very real thing because God no longer then becomes this noun, this thing up in the sky or whatever looking down. It becomes your interactions with other people, and it becomes a verb, and it becomes community. And that's when people find fullness. And like you said, you drop the grace, you allow yourself, you drop the shame.
I was going to say, wait, you dropped the grace.
No, you drop the shame and the guilt. And whatever vehicle it takes for you to do that, do it. But God, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So, my time with this is not over, and I'm so happy to see. It's crazy too, because after Big Bill died, I had a nervous breakdown, and that's when I flew to you in Florida, and we reconnected again on a whole new level. You actually flew here for his funeral, and you didn't even know the guy because you knew how much he meant to me. And now here you are going through recovery. If Bill was here right now, he would be
in a
here
chair
every day, smoking Camel Wides, singing songs about the old days. And his lyrics are great. He has so many lyrics still to this day that I haven't put to music. But we had a deep connection, and I didn't even expect to talk about Big Bill, but his size 17 shoes are still hanging in my studio because I need that every day.
His story continues on.
Yeah, you die twice, right?
Yeah. Well, 3 times.
3 times. So the first time is the time you die physically.
No, first time is the time you know you're going to die.
That's when you... Okay,
yes.
that's the
second
first
time is when you actually die.
I see.
And the third time is when the last person who knows your name speaks it and they die.
Mm-hmm. Your name or your message?
Your name, your memory, your message, legacy. I guess. Yeah, which is trippy to think. The first one's the toughest.
If you're lucky. Some people don't even know they're about to get a bomb dropped on them or a truck plows through their front door by accident. Or, and this is where it comes back to you, is like, did you even know that you were going to die? Did you know? Because if you didn't get the cops called on you and you didn't take that walk to her house and you stole at someone else's house or from a drug dealer, you would have been dead.
That's crazy. I'd be upstate.
Be in the ground.
I'd be upstate.
Chances are, if you weren't upstate, if you found yourself.
Yeah, if that didn't happen too. And I've always, I've talked with Christine, and again, that's going to be on the next episode I post. Which actually I shouldn't say next episode because that episode's going to be up before this episode's out, so that doesn't make any sense.
Just cut that out.
Just ignore that. I will edit that part out. Anywho, like Christine and I had this conversation about how difficult it was for her to call the cops on me, because I tell a lot of people that she called the cops on me, and people are like, oh, I'd be so pissed. And I'm like, looking at it, it's like, how could I be pissed? Jail was the best thing that happened to me.
That's why she called, because she knew that.
And she knew that in her gut. And when she tells a story about it, she cried, had the phone in her hand, put it back down, started crying some more, didn't want to do it. I mean, 3 or 4 times she picks up this phone to call the cops, and she can't do it. She doesn't want to do it, but her gut is telling her to do it. And she finally went with it. And it ended up being where I had my biggest breakthrough of my life. And I have no idea if that would have ever happened if it wasn't for going into jail. Would I have probably been in jail down the road? Yeah, most certainly. That's pretty high possibility. But that's where everything happened. And to be able for somebody to do something like that and that's what you would call tough love, I guess, essentially. That's like the poster child of tough love. I'm calling the cops on you. Sorry. I don't want to. I'm crying about it. But this is going to be the best thing for you. And that's the huge thing. When I had Megan Delicato on here, one of the things she does so wonderfully, and it was just natural in her, was with her brother, set very, very strict, tight boundaries, but yet always be open and available to when you're ready for help and you need it and you honestly want to do it. I am here. I am here to help you, and I will help you in any way possible. But you're going to follow these rules. You're going to follow these guidelines.
See, now I wanted that to be me with you. And I would argue that I was always available for you if you need help, if you want it. But one of the things about recovery that they always say is you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. So why even pursue helping someone if they don't want the help?
That's pointless. Yeah.
It's just a waste of everyone's time.
Total waste of time. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason for, as much as you want to help somebody, if they don't want it, then it's never going to work. But I did want to touch on something you mentioned about when you were in recovery and you enjoyed going there and around these people. The one thing I've noticed being in recovery now for about a year that I've been in it roughly, there's so many amazing, beautiful, real human beings out there.
No fluff.
That have done this, that have done really messed up things. And you get to know somebody and you're like, you did what? You actually did that?
Yeah.
That is insane to me. And just these awesome, beautiful, some people say, what do you got a felony? Well, I guess I don't technically have felonies anymore. They got dropped to misdemeanors. But you had 2 violent felonies? Really? Sean Cuddy, you had those? Yeah.
People who murdered others. I mean,
it's
and now
insane.
They're teddy bears.
Yeah. It's amazing when you get somebody's shell cracked and you get through all the bullshit of life and they start learning how to face it, just how beautiful human beings are and how much good is actually out there in these people.
Well, see, and for me, it comes back to Christ a lot because that's my driving force. But in the sense of Christ is found in the least of the people in the community. That's the message, is that you find God in the people who are outcasts of society, right? But here in recovery, it's amazing because people are showing up in community to find each other through shared experience because they want to. That's it. Because they know they need it. They know they need the accountability. They know they have something to share on a good day. Sometimes you show up with energy to share like you did with your family the other day, which is beautiful. And other days you show up because you need to hear someone else do the same thing. But when you make yourself available to show up and to actually be a part of an authentic community of people who are hungry for truth and honesty and growth, there's what better place is there? I don't care if it's in a dingy basement with bad coffee and some cheap donuts, like it's so much better than the most ornate Hollywood party with surface shallow conversation of people hungry for fame and celebrity and money. It's like, no, man, give me the real substance of what you went through. Give me a lesson to chew on. Like, you went through that. Share with me more about how you are going through that now and how has that totally impacted your life. Like, man, I could relate to that. And you take that and you run with it. And it's not just at one space, man. You go to any meeting and it's the same sense of community. If it's your first time there or your 100th time there or your 1,000th time there, or you've been going there 30 years and now you run the meeting, it's the same authentic kind of hunger for honesty.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And granted, yes, there are still fake people who go there. There's still people who aren't, but there's just so much authenticity at these meetings. I mean, for the most part, it's awesome to see a lot of people. It just helps. Like, there's times where I'm like, I don't want to go to a meeting. I don't feel like I just want to go home. And I go there and I'm feeling down and I walk in the doors and just to know, all right, to be reminded, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one who goes through this. Because that's another thing that self-pity breeds is nobody understands me. Nobody's been through what I've been through, blah, blah, blah. And so that immediately gets shattered when you walk into a meeting, a self-help group, whatever it may be, AANA, Smart Recovery, the list goes on.
No one's trying to outdo the other person with their war stories. Well, hopefully not. I'm sure you get those guys.
That happens here or there, but for the most part, no, you're not.
Yeah. Like, that's not why you're there. You're not there to, like, boost your ego. You're there because you have admitted that your powerlessness and, you're surrendering to the fact that you have no control over your life. But by doing so, you're controlling your life, which is so cool. And I always wrestled with that idea that, like, come on, how are you going to say I'm powerless? But I'm here by my own will. Just show up and learn, Yeah, I always want to just keep it relevant and something, people don't want to hear about me. But through my eyes, in a nutshell, your story was a long, gradual decline of a friend who is lying to himself and lying to the rest of the world. And it's like a battle of you to wake up. It took some really long separation of you and your whole life and all the people that enabled you, supported you, and loved you. You just had to be removed from it. And it's like every mystic or every philosopher, enlightened person, they spend that time separated from everyone else. They go into the desert, they go into the wilderness, they go on a path, they go on a journey, and they're fasting or they're suffering or they're just totally choosing to just be totally isolated. And that wasn't something you chose consciously. Maybe you did on that long walk. Well, I had to. I was in jail. I was forced pretty much to go to jail. But in jail, I made the choice to go down the path of I'm going to fix and change and work on this thing. I'm not going to sit my own world of self-pity. I got a chip on my shoulder. The world owes me attitude anymore. So that's what it was. I tell that all the time. I came to this fork in the road, psychological fork. And I said, I can go down this way and stay where I'm at, live under a bridge, lose everything. At that point, I didn't even know if I lost Christine yet or not. So in my mind, there was a possibility of even not having her anymore. I could not have anything. I could lose even more. Or I can get myself the F up, dust myself off, learn, grow, change, and develop this confidence, self-love, self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, and do something with my existence where I feel like it has meaning. And that was my choice. So that's where I made my choice. That's where I made my decision to go down this other path. And it's crazy to see the differences in me. Like, even getting up and talking in front of people.
apologizing to people, these amends that I have to make, going in there with the understanding that this person might not forgive me, but knowing that I'm deserving of it. And I have that confidence in it. And that makes the difference in the world, the biggest difference in the world right there. Is if somebody doesn't forgive me, that's fine. That's their choice. I understand why you don't want to. I did some really stupid crap in my addiction, but I know I'm deserving of it, and I'm going to keep going down this road of development and growth, because there's always going to be that. I mean, Corey's a great Corey, and I don't know if it's more monetary driven right now, but obviously I think he's still very hurt. He's still angry, very understandable. It's very understanding. Whatever. I'll edit that too. But, I get it. It's, I get it why you were hurt. I get that. I mean, especially, I know you, and I think even Corey said it. I think it was one of his biggest things, other than the money situation with us, it was just like, man, why couldn't you come to me? Why couldn't you just tell me your best friend? Like, we've known each other this long. We tell each other everything. And that's such a great example of not wanting to set aside my pride and show that I'm weak. It's always had that image of, I got to be strong and I can get through this by myself. And it's just amazing to come and do that total 180 of a person, and just now I'm pouring it out to the world. I'm recording it. I'm basically broadcasting my recovery to the entire world.
Which is holding you accountable to it too. Like, you've set momentum.
It's huge. Yeah.
You're not isolating yourself anymore. You're taking it to the next level.
It's just out there. Yeah. And that's what I was telling my counselor today when I had my session at Horizon Village. And I was like, this is what people who relapse, everybody who has relapsed that I've heard talk about relapsing, stop doing the recovery. They forgot about it. They thought they had it. They thought they had it under control. They're good. I got this. I don't need to go to groups anymore. I don't need to talk about this anymore. I'm just going to live my life and go back to normality, whatever that means, and blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, you're back right into jail, right back into rehabs, because they forgot where their story. And that's why I developed that quote when I was out in Orangeburg, New York at my first 28-day program, was after I kept hearing these people at these H&Is that would come in from NA and AA, and they would say, oh, I forgot. I stopped working on my recovery. I stopped remembering how terrible it was to be in addiction. And I just developed this quote every day. I say it to myself several times a day, probably. I know I got this as long as I know I don't got this. As long as I keep working at this. Like, that's going to be one of the biggest signs right now, if I'm relapsing, is that this just stops. This podcast stops. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not producing it anymore. And music's another big one. I stop playing music. I start isolating. I mean, that's going to be the biggest red flag. I think Christine mentioned something to me the other day about, are you all right? She asked me if I'm all right. She's like, you sure you're good or something? I don't know if I was on my phone a few more times than normal. I'm not really sure what brought it on. It also could have been because she handed me $40 cash. I'm not sure what sparked it, but I just said to her, I was like, this is what you got to look for. And not to mention, I told her I can I'll get a drug test from the house. I mean, whenever you're worried, that's fine. If I get defensive, that's when you have to be worried. Mm-hmm. When I start asking for money and not having a reason for, an honest reason for it, that's when you got to be worried. When this stops being produced, this podcast, because it's a full-time job right now. I'm not making any money, but it's constantly reminding me of everything. It's a constant reminder. Every time I type a word, write a word, say a word, record a word, it's there.
Yeah, you're looking it right in the eye. The dialogue is the recovery. It's not thinking about the future. It's not talking about the future. Sometimes it's talking about the past like we're doing right now. But the point is like that constant reflection. It's active. It's present. Like when you look yourself in the mirror, you're looking yourself in the eyes right now. It's present. But it's also like you look at the rearview mirror of your car to see what's behind you. You look in your bathroom mirror to see what's in front of you. It's like which one is ahead and which one is behind. A little like maybe heavy, but do you get what I'm saying? You're actively, when you stick a microphone in your face and you talk about this, it's sticking your mirror in front of your face and looking at it, and it's taking your addiction and recovery and it's putting it right out in the open. It's like one of those little mirrors that shows you every pore on your face, what people use for contact lenses or like, doing their makeup or plucking eyebrows. It's like, show me all the imperfections. Show me the thing that I'm trying to like remove. Expose it. I don't want to have the lights dim when I'm shaving. shaving, so I know I get all the little hairs. Like, I'm trying to do this here. And as soon as you stop doing that, it's like you're putting the mirror down. You're choosing to stop writing. It's the act. It's a practice, you know? And that's what's so beautiful. It's such a spiritual journey to be on a road of recovery, because you're practicing honesty and dialogue, which is all
Constantly.
we need. I think like that's all we need as humans, is to have that. That's all we crave for.
Yeah.
That's why people get married. That's why people have children. That's why people have friends and social groups, because that's all we want, is to be able to dialogue and bounce things off each other and just be like, yeah, you exist. And every time you do that with yourself, you're kind of proving to yourself like, yeah, I'm on the right road. I'm going to be facing my demons. I'm going to look them right in the eye, because that's like the best way to live. You feel most alive.
I'm going to share them with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. Like, I noticed when I first got out of Horizon Village and I kind of started this, I created the Room 9 podcast Facebook page, and I would go down and invite friends. And at first, when I started this, I only did like people who already knew, pretty much. People I was in recovery with that I became friends on Facebook, and the people that I'm related to and, you know, that already knew what happened. And then I slowly started inviting other people, like, all right, oh, come on, dude. Just, this is what you're doing this for, to show everybody, tell everybody. And now it's to the point where my 8th grade English teacher on Facebook is commenting about my podcast and how awesome it is and how much courage it takes and how amazing it is what I'm doing to tell my story and switch things around. Like, my 8th grade English teacher knows.
Who's that?
Miss Marshall.
Shout out to Miss Marshall.
Yes, she knows, you know, and that Dr. Vanis, she knows, they know that I was a heroin addict. That
Claudia Marshall?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She knows
Love
that.
Claudia Marshall. Hi, Claudia.
You know, they know that I had trouble with addiction, that I struggled in this. And it's just crazy. Like, somebody in China, I said that to somebody the other day, somebody in China couldn't be following my recovery right now. And that's been the most number one thing that has kept me just going full force with really, if I had no kind of like trip ups. You know, in the beginning, there was a few times where I would get maybe a little itch, but it really has been nothing that has kind of like slowed me down. And to keep going on this path is, I mean, 100% the most important thing.
Quick thing. So music, when you play a song, right? It's like you can sit in your bedroom and play a song just for you to listen to. And that's meant just for you. And that's when people write songs. and that's beautiful. But man, does a song really exist if you can't share it with somebody else? And as you're playing a song, you're listening to yourself play. And who is it? Alan Watts? Someone said, what's the point of a song? It's not to get to the end of it.
Yeah, Alan Watts says, yeah, if the point of a song was to get to the end of it, the greatest artist would have the shortest songs or something like that. Yeah.
Right.
And it's about the dance in between.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Yeah.
I mean, no one likes a DJ that lets the dance floor die, you know? I mean, like, continue it, you know? As soon as that song's done, flip on the next, you know? Like, have the next conversation, invite your next guest, and have this conversation now. It's like, let that thing go. And people who drop the recovery, they stop. It's like they reached the end of the record and didn't flip the side. They're like, yeah, I'm good. I heard the end. It's like, man, no, there's more music to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So keep playing, you know, and for anyone who hears, you know, your story and my story and your family story and your friends, it's just another way to connect and grow that community beyond the basements, meetings, and the little small groups. Now it's on the web, and it's even better, and the dialogue can continue.
Yeah, that's what is up.
To
share, to tell. And it's like, I didn't realize how, because it's become such a habit for me to do this now, how dumbfounding it is to so many people. When I get those messages pretty frequently, like, well, it takes so much courage, and like I forget to look at it like that. Like, this has become such a second nature thing for me to hit record, and just, I can't think of anything that I have not shared on this microphone about my recovery, about my addiction. I mean, there might be new things, but there's nothing where like, I don't want nobody to know about this. Well, I don't want to tell people about this. I can't think of anything and it's just, I'm just throwing it out there. And I'm not saying has to be for everybody. I think everybody should have a few people that they can constantly do that with. I'm not saying everybody should hit record about everything they've done and everything they're going through, but you have to have some kind of outlet, some kind of person or people that are going to be there that you can pour all this out to, because to keep any of that in is just, you're setting yourself up for destruction.
Well, it's weak to hold it in. You think you're being strong,
but it's weak.
But you're really being super weak. And that's why I love the serenity prayer of serenity being accepting the things that you cannot change. Therefore, like when you hear these things, they almost become rote. Like people are like tired of hearing them and they become cliches. So that's why you have to keep giving them new outfits, like new clothing, like put the same thing on, the old tired saying. And that's what you do when you're using words like what you're saying. But the courage to change the things I can. It's like, oh, it's so courageous of you to hit record and cheers. Well, man, that's what I can do.
Yeah.
I can't change the past that I had, so I'm going to accept it. I'm going to accept the thing I can't change my past. I'm going to have the courage to change the very thing that I can, and that's what I'm going to do today. And then the wisdom to know the difference. And people get caught up in that downward spiral when they think today equals yesterday. Like, because I did that yesterday, I have to do that again today. And when you can interrupt that, cut that film strip, put on a new film, take that record needle off the record, put on a new record, whatever it is, hit stop and record again. Man, that's where you feel the courage. That's where you have like the power. And it's like, damn, like I decide the thoughts that I think, and I decide the acts that I act. I actually control my behavior. It's beautiful. But then reflecting on that enables future growth. Does that make sense?
That makes beautiful sense.
Serenity. I mean, that's all it
Serenity, yeah.
That's not success.
Serenity now.
It's not success, right?
Well, that is success.
That's successful. Yeah, you can succeed when you reach serenity, right?
Yeah.
But it's not, it doesn't mean anything else besides I'm not living in this walking hell anymore. That's it.
And like almost every other topic that I've discussed in this podcast, this goes for not only addicts, this goes for everybody.
Right.
In the life that we're living, whether it be shopping, whether it be binge watching TV, we're something to avoid the spot of where we don't want to take up the courage and the strength to face something in our lives that we have to change and fix.
Well, dude, if a lion's chasing after you, you run, right? Fight or flight. Like if your life is threatened, you're going to run, you're going to move. And if you want to move into action, you almost have to up the stakes. And for you, the stakes were raised because you got sent away.
That's right.
Bye. Right. You either die or you go under a bridge and you lose it all, or you do this. The stakes are ultimately raised. And that's the only thing that pushes you and moves you actually towards action sometimes. So in recovery,
rock bottom. Yeah.
In like daily life, whatever it is that you are, man, raise those stakes. Be like, if I don't do this, there's going to be consequences that I'm not going to like, So I'm going to have courage to change the thing I can. I love core and courage, C-O-U-R, heart, right? If you even look at other languages, there's always like that root word. And I don't know what it is, but heart, heart. It's not even like people think courage and you think strength or bravery or like willpower.
It's heart, yeah.
It's actually heart. So if you're living with intention and you're living with a full heart, that's serenity.
And that is, I think, a beautiful way to end this episode, sir. Thank you for coming on Room 9. Be more in the future.
Thank you for having me.
And I love everybody very much. Sweet. All right, folks, signing off. Room 9. Peace out, y'all.
Peace and love.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Get on our website. I just posted a new blog not too long ago called The Pain of My Story. Kind of share a little bit of what happened with me and as far as my brother and sister dying and things of that nature. So get on the website and check that out. Don't forget to get on our support page. If you can help us out a little bit, that is awesome. Again, everything is going to be public. Receipts and balance is good. You can do a one-time donation. You can click on a link to Patreon to be a monthly donor. There's also a letter. Please read that before you do anything, explaining what goes on with the finances and how it is monitored and how I am kept accountable here at Room 9. And that is all. So keep in touch with us. Get on our social media stuff, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and give us some feedback. Send us an email, sign up on our contact page at room9podcast.com to get constant updates of emails, blogs, and episodes. And that is all. You guys have a wonderful day and stay strong. Much love, everybody.